Welcome back to Barbecue My Way. We are doing applewood smoked pork chops. Oh my gosh, look at those. Aren't those gorgeous? We're going to start off with a brine to create the moisture and flavor of the chop. We have 3 cups of water. We have roughly 1/4 cup of kosher salt and 1/4 cup of brown sugar just to add a little bit of sweetness. We're going to mix that up. It takes about a minute to mix it up for all the things to dissolve fully into the water. And let's take a look at these chops. I had the butcher cut these specifically for us. They're bone in, which I love with pork chops, 1 3/4 inches thick, which is a hefty piece of meat. And then look at that nice thickness, the little fat on the side. These are just perfect pork chops. So now we're going to start the brining process. We're going to get a Ziploc bag. We're going to slide both pork chops into that Ziploc bag. The brining itself pulls the moisture out of the chop, and then over time, a couple hours, it pulls the moisture and the brine back into it, so you get the flavors of the brine inside the pork chop. Everything's dissolved perfectly, so now we're going to add it to these 2 gorgeous 1 3/4 inch bone-in pork chops. We're going to allow them to brine for roughly 2 hours in the refrigerator, and just to kind of get things started, we are going to add a few ice cubes. That's going to make sure that the fluid or the brine itself doesn't start off kind of lukewarm, which we don't like. So we're going to add some ice cubes to kickstart the temperature downward. Now you want to put it in a bowl. Why is that? Well, what happens if there's a leak in that bag? The wife or significant other will not be happy with you when you mess up their refrigerator. So zip it up. This is after 2 hours later. We're going to now empty the brine out of the bag. And then here's the chops after they've been brined. They don't look much different, but they're full of flavor now. And now it's time to add the rub. Now with this rub, you may not want to use as much salt as we did because there is salt in the brine, but it depends on how much salt you like in your food. You want to liberally cover the chop on both sides with this beautiful rub, and the recipe's in the description as well. One of the pet peeves I have with people when they do chops, or any steak for that matter, is they forget the sides. And last I checked, we don't carve out of the middle and leave the sides. We eat the sides as well. So if you really want to create a restaurant quality chop, put a little rub down on the board and take that chop and make sure that the sides have the rub as well. Now that's some of the best eating right there. You've got that little band of fat that's going to crisp up a little, and then you've got the rub on it. Look at that chop. My gosh, you could almost eat it just like that. So let's get it outside to the grill. I just like showing charcoal like that when it's getting ready to get used. We're doing indirect heat, and those are applewood chunks that we're using, or chips. Hickory is something I've used in the past, but I think it's a little too strong for this pork chop. I like the sweetness of the apple smoke itself. And we're going to do these indirect, lid on, for roughly 30 minutes to start out the cooking process. Once that's happened, here's 30 minutes done. That's what they look like. They're darkening up a little bit. We're going to put the chops directly over the coals. Now, the reason we're doing that is we're not going to finish cooking them this way, but this is what gives that great texture and color. There's Coco, our dog, looking for scraps. Let's turn that chop. Look at that nice flame there. Now, remember, there's brown sugar in that rub, so you want to be careful. You don't want it to burn, but look at that texture that's being created. We're going to do it on both sides. And let's just gander at that. Holy moly, that looks good. All right, so now we're going to take it off, and well, I'm going to show off a little and say, hey, look at the bottom. It's just as perfectly done as the top as well. So we're going to put it back on indirect, and we're going to put the lid back on. Quit showing off, Dave. Put the chop down. All right, we're going to put the lid on, do the indirect for another 30 minutes or so. You want the chop to register internally about 135. Oh, look at those. When you take them off, the temperature will rise by another 10 degrees or so, getting up to 145, which is a medium to medium rare for a pork chop. We served this with asparagus and a wonderful cauliflower cheesy mash that I created that I'll be sharing with you on a video as well. Let's quit talking and let's just take a bite of this thing. We're going to cut into the loin portion of the chop. Something you'll notice when we bring this closer to the camera, you see a real slight smoke ring around that chop, and that's the bit of that applewood kind of giving you that slight smoke ring. And oh, I can't tell you how good that was. So give this a try. Thanks for stopping by Barbecue My Way. We will check in later.